It's the Brad and John Show.
It is the Brad John Show. Today's date is the 29th of October. It is a Wednesday, hump day, as Shelley Barr used to say. And what do we do in B Block, John?
It's time for Brad's Top 3.
It's time for Brad's Top 3.
And what do the ladies have to do twice? They have to sing it twice. It's in their contract.
It's time for Brad's Top.
And we start off with...
It's number 3.
John, you think I would learn my lesson from the talking to I got yesterday from you in the C Block when I was expressing a friend of mine who I think has an issue with her boyfriend, okay? And I got made fun of by quite a few people, by you and other people as well. And you'd think that I would learn my lesson, but what happened yesterday afternoon to good old Brad?
Did you go on Facebook and start a fight with someone?
No, I did not. But what was interesting was, as a business person, if you're in what they call leads groups, one of the ideas is you pass leads. So in other words, if you're sitting in a meeting somewhere and someone, or let's say you go to one of your clients and the client says, man, my HVAC system, my air conditioning never works right, and the furnace never works right, and it's noisy and it's stinky. You say, hey, I've got just the guy for you, Jeremy Wolf from Stay Cool Heating and Cooling, okay? You pass leads. In other words, that's what you do. You give
I get it, yeah.
You give referrals, okay? So last Wednesday, ironically, I had a meeting with a lady who is a higher up in a St. Charles County not-for-profit. I won't say which one because I'm not going to impeach her, nor am I going to impeach lady number 2 who will come up in a minute. And she explained to me one of the problems they were having. So of all crazy things, Monday morning it hit me, you know what? I know somebody who could help her. Lady number 2, who runs another non-for-profit in St. Charles County, actually in St. Louis County, St. Charles County, and adjoining counties. And I thought to myself, you know what? I need to send her the information from lady number 1 so that she can get together with lady number 1 and work out some deal where they might be able to mutually help each other. Okay, John?
That's great. That's the whole point of the leads group.
You with me so far? Is this making sense? Okay.
I am, of course.
Yesterday afternoon, I hear from lady number 2 who essentially says, I will have nothing to do with those people at lady number 1's organization. They don't support us, and we will not support them. And I'm thinking to myself,
wow. And without giving away anything, is it about politics or is it like a long-term personality dispute?
Well, first off, I thought to myself, John, are you ready for this?
Yeah.
I want to say, can we all get along? Can we get along?
I'm just Brad. I'm just trying to, help people out, moving on down the road, make everybody's life better, trying to protect people that I think need a little bit of protecting.
Yeah, that's delusional. Go ahead.
What was interesting was this was a conversation over text. And at one point in time, I thought to myself, man, did I open up a hornet's nest with this, where lady number 2 was telling me that the organization that lady number 1 works for, they've got tons of money. And she doesn't. So in other words, lady number 2 is crying poor. Lady number 1 supposedly is looking for help, but not willing to pay. And this apparently is the crux of the situation, that the 2 NFPs, I'll call them not-for-profits, don't get along because they don't send every money. They hold on to their own money, and they're not going to help anybody else. And I'm thinking to myself, this sounds like John Combest with 911. If somebody...
Yeah, why would I help somebody?
Right.
Way to mix metaphors there, Brad.
Right.
So how did you extricate yourself from the situation? Did you play nice guy Brad and say, oh, come on? Or did you just choose to control what you control and let it be?
Let me look at how I ended it. I essentially said, well, I won't say how I ended it. It was sort of interesting because I gave an example of the problem I'm having with a not-for-profit, a religious not-for-profit. And John, who could that be? Another broadcaster who's a religious broadcaster who is giving me all sorts of grief? And... Yeah,
WFMB. Their signal comes in from Springfield, Illinois, and interferes with KFUO, right?
No, yeah, the Lutheran Church.
Wait, no, it's not. It's not them. It's just KFUO.
Yeah, it's the Lutheran Church. Okay, ready for number 2?
Yeah, let's do it, Brad.
It's time for Brad's number 2. It's time
You know, I thought about this when the book tour for Kamala Harris started, and then I thought about it even more when the books tour for KJP, Corinne Jean-Pierre, started. I thought to myself, can you imagine being the PR person, the comms person for these book publishers, sitting in your office listening to these interviews that both Kamala Harris has done and KJP has done, thinking, why did we let them talk to the press? Why couldn't we just...
Yeah, and didn't KJP, I hope I'm not stepping on your story here, but didn't KJP have a headline quote of, I just woke up every morning as a black queer woman and did the best I could?
Well, she did. Now, John, I'm going to ask you this up front, okay? The New Yorker, okay? How would you describe the political alignment of the New Yorker magazine?
Probably left of Cory Bush.
Right. Very, very. So in other words, you're saying very liberal, okay?
Very liberal.
Okay. They did an interview with KJP, okay? And have you heard about this?
No, I haven't.
Okay. The headline of several articles, and this is out of the New York Post. This is not out of some crazy, weird, super right-wing publication. The New York Post headline is ex-Biden press secretary Corinne Jean-Pierre's word salad answers baffled New Yorker reporter during train wreck interview. And if you read the interview, it's bizarre as bizarre can get. And in certain points in time, the interviewer, I won't go into detail on this, but the interviewer asks her a question. The guy's name is, what's his name? Isaac Chotiner, Chotiner. He's staff writer for The New Yorker. At some points in the interview, he asks her a question, and she answers, let's say she answers yes. And in the next, and a little bit down the road, he asks her essentially the same question, and she says no. And he calls her out a couple times in this. Well, earlier in the interview, you said this, and what you just said contradicts this. The interesting thing was, and I'm going to get myself in trouble when I say this, but I'm going to say this up front. She points out the fact that her and Kamala Harris have something in common. And what is that, John?
Are they both black lesbians?
They're both no, they're both black females. And people just don't understand that black females are really good at what they do, but nobody appreciates them.
Oh, yeah, certainly. They're wildly unappreciated.
Right. And they are at the top of their game, and I'm to the point where, like, already people have said the thing about Kamala because recently she made the headlines. Was it late last week, early this week, where she was in London or something on her book tour, and I think she was with the BBC, and she essentially made the comment that she just might run for president again. I mean, she didn't come out and say that, but she
I saw that.
Right, and she's sort of alluding to the fact that the final decision hasn't been made yet, which makes it sort of sound like, hey, we could still do that. So the whole problem is, and how do I say this nicely? I don't care what color you are. I don't care what sex you are. I don't care what about your sexual preference. I want a person who's competent at their job. And I think it's safe to say that both KJP and Kamala Harris were not competent at their jobs. Would that be safe to say, John?
I think that's fair to say, yeah. And I think that if you were, let's say, a black lesbian and you were super competent, you would look at KJP and you would say, cringe. I mean, I'm happy that one of us is there, but why couldn't they have picked somebody that was good at their job?
Well, now some people may say, you're just saying that because of the fact that you don't like Democrats. Remember, Jen Psaki was the original press secretary for Biden, and she was pretty damn good in my book. Now,
she was really good, Brad.
Yes.
I mean, we make fun of the circle back thing,
right?
But I thought Psaki was really good.
Yes, exactly. I felt the same way. Now, the circle back thing got to be the point where she got a question. And once again, what's interesting about that is me teaching salespeople. I don't know if you ever heard this technique before or not. When you're teaching salespeople, one of the problems I had one woman who was so afraid that she was going to ask a question that she didn't know anything about because she never done sales and broadcasting before. And I said to her, all you have to do is say, you know what? That's a great question. Back at the station, XYZ, Jim or Bob or Bill or Brad is expert at that. Let me get back to the station and I will contact Brad and I will either have him call you or I'll call you with the answer to your question. So once again, You've diffused an issue where you don't know about it. But what you're essentially saying is, great question. We have an expert. I will get back to you and tell you what the expert says.
And that's a version of what Psaki was doing.
Right, the circle back thing. You know what? That's a great question. Let me check on that a little bit more. I'll talk to the person in charge and find out more and blah, 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 which essentially was a good move. The only problem is she moved it. She used it too much. Circle back, circle back, circle back. So here's the crazy thing. Is it bad to say that KJP and Kamala were just bad at what they did and it had nothing to do with their sex nor their race? Is it bad to say that?
I think it's not bad to say. I think that's fair. And also look at election results and look at the fact that a lot of Democrats weren't happy with the job that KJP did either.
Man, crazy stuff.
But a percentage of people, Brad, I know we're getting close to the end of time. A percentage of people, no matter what, will use their race, their gender, their identity, their sex, whatever, as an excuse for why they failed. And you've seen that in decades of your professional life.
Well, yes, and exactly. The crazy thing about it is matter of fact, here, let me read you the quote. I'll read you this. This is a very unique thing that I don't think anyone would understand unless you walked in our bodies and lived our lives. My feeling was not about not being qualified. It was about people not being able to see past her being black and a woman. She's talking about Kamala. It's not that confusing for us because we live this life every day in and out. That's what she said.
And so can you imagine, Brad, if you were a gorgeous blonde woman that was a spokeswoman for Donald Trump in the first or second administration, you could say, nobody knows what it's like to be a gorgeous blonde woman, to have men stare at you up at the podium and you're talking about the federal budget and you know they're thinking about other things. No one except for someone who's lived through it can understand.
It's funny you should mention that because I didn't talk about this, but a couple weeks back there was a big controversy where she was at the beach with, did you see this picture with one of her kids and she's holding up her kids and she's in
KJP?
No. We're talking
Caroline Leavitt.
Caroline Leavitt. She's at the beach with one of her kids and she's holding up her one of her kids at the beach and she's got on a bikini and all I can say is Vavoom. I mean, she was just...
I did. By the way, Brad, that's a great 1970s phrase. I'm going to pretend that while you're talking in story number one, I'm not looking up Caroline Leavitt bikini. Go ahead.
I'm telling you. And the caption on the picture was, is this proper for a government official to have a picture like this?
No, it's more proper for her to strip it off.
Yeah, that John. I can't believe you just said that. Okay, ready for number one?
Yeah, let's do it, Brad.
And now, big finish, Brad's number.
You're not going to believe this, John, but there are times in my life where things hit my radar and I become obsessed with them. And
no, get out of town, Brad.
Yes, and something happened to me yesterday where I heard another radio station, somebody mention EBUG. And I thought to myself, I think I know what that is. And it was in a sports context. It was a sports context about hockey. And they talked about EBUG. You know what EBUG is?
What the heck is an EBUG?
Emergency backup goalie.
Okay, what does that mean?
Okay, this is interesting because of the fact that I remember a couple of these crazy stories, and this is unique to the National Hockey League. Each team can carry no more than 2 goalies. You can have 2 goalies. You can't have 3. And the problem is if 2 of your goalies, goalie number 1 plays and he gets hit in the face with a puck and he gets knocked out, and goalie number 2 gets in there and he gets hit in the groin with a puck and he's knocked out, you don't have another goalie. But yet you do. You have the emergency backup goalie. And in the NHL, the emergency backup goalie is a guy who travels with the team but does not necessarily dress out. And sometimes the guy can just be literally a fan in the seats in a home game. Like, let's say the EBUG for the Blues would be literally a guy who gets a free ticket.
Like towel guy. It could be towel guy.
It could be towel guy. And if goalie number 1 gets knocked out and goalie number 2 gets knocked out, Then they bring in the EBUG, and there's rules about this in the NHL that the EBUG gets, I think, 2 minutes of practice, and then they go on with the game. The interesting part of this story is that they're changing the rules, the collective bargaining agreement in the NHL, which will take effect, I believe, in 2026-2027 season, which I guess is next season, essentially changes the rules for this. But the fascinating part of this is there have been instances of the emergency backup goalie actually going in, and I remember this. I think the last time it happened was like 6 or 7 years ago, where the guy who was like the equipment trainer for one of the teams was the EBUG, and all of a sudden the two goalies got injured, and there was video of him running back down into, from the he was on like the bench, running down the tunnel, going back into the locker room, putting on the pads and going like that, skating out on the ice and going into the goal. I'm thinking to myself, this is amazing. Can you imagine this in baseball? Can you imagine this in the NFL? Let's say like the situation we've had this, like for example, perfect example, the not necessarily professional, but Mizzou. Their big quarterback. Remember, they had the thing where they had the two quarterbacks who were fighting for the job, and the one guy gets it, and he on the first play of the first game of the season this season, he blows up his leg, so he's out. So the second guy comes in, and then this past game against Vandy, he gets his leg blown up. Can you imagine Coach Drinkwater getting on the PA and say, "Joe Smith, you're up in the student section of Faurot Field. Come on down. You're the next quarterback for the Mizzou
You're the
Tigers."
next contestant on Who Wants to Be a Quarterback.
Right.
By the way, Brad, drink wits, not drink water.
Did I say
although
drink
you
water?
should drink some water. And the best thing they could do, instead of going to the crowd for the backup quarterback, just go to Aldi. Get the guy stocking shelves, and he'd be your backup quarterback.
No, it was High V. It wasn't Aldi.
High V, Aldi, High V, whatever.
Right, High
So,
V.
Brad, what context was EBUG brought up when you heard it?
They were talking about weird rules in sports. And,
I see.
and
Okay.
I'd heard this before, so I'm thinking to myself, okay, and this is how my mind works, squirrel, that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, you don't say.
I started doing research on this, and I found some fascinating articles about this, talking about, and they talked about that if you go back in the last 10 years, the amount of ice time that EBUG guys have gotten is like 0.00001% of the total of the total time that all games added together in the NHL have been like in the past 10 years. But once again, I think it's one of these fascinating things where it's almost like one of these stories out of Hollywood. You know what? Our two goalies got knocked out. Hey, there's a guy up in the stands. Hey, come on down. You can be goalie for the Blues. And the way the Blues have been playing, I think they lost their fifth game in a row last night. Maybe we need an E-bug and an E center and an E forward and an E defenseman to all come down out of the stands and play, which would be better than the Blues, right? What do you think, John?
I don't know. I think we need an E-bub for an emergency backup Brad on this show. And when the moments where you have to, hold on, I got to be over here working on the computer. I could just have an AI version of you or just some hobo off the street that could fill in when you're actually doing stuff when we're on the air.
I've got him right now.
Oh, you do, Brad?
Yeah.
I want to hear him.
Oh, here it is. Well, it's not a him, it's a her. Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
Well, I woke up to go get me a cold pop, and then I thought somebody was barbecuing. I said, "Oh, Lord Jesus, it's a fire." Then I ran out. I didn't grab no shoes or nothing, Jesus. I ran for my life. And then the smoke got me. I got bronchitis. Ain't nobody got time for that.
That's my emergency backup, John.
Incredible. Brad, I've been planning on doing this for quite a while.
Okay.
Which is I was going to look up what year that catchphrase peaked. I'm guessing it was 2012. I can't see on Google Trends exactly when it peaked, but the number one state for that phrase is the state of Arizona. I wonder if that lady was actually from Arizona.
No, I think she was from, I'll look it up. They call her name is Sweet Brown. But if you've ever seen, there's a site that I go to all the time called News Be Funny. And all it is every month the guy does a recap of all the crazy news bloopers. But he's got like best of, he's got greatest hits and stuff like that. That's on the greatest hits reel. And literally is her standing in front of an apartment building that was on fire and the fire trucks are back there. And this is a reporter interviewing her, which is pretty funny. And
Sweet Georgia Brown.
Well, they just call her Sweet Brown. Okay, time for a break.